Hey, everybody. Welcome back for another great episode of Startup Sense. This is your host, Jonah Lupton. On the phone today, I have Marius Ciocirlan. Hopefully, I got that correct. He is the co-founder of ShareGrid. Marius, how are you today?
Thank you so much. I'm doing really good. I'm just really excited to be on your podcast. Thanks for reaching out and bringing me on. I'm super excited to talk about everything.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. Where are you calling us from today?
So I'm from we're in Seattle, Washington. That's where we're headquartered. But I've lived all over the United States. So today is actually not raining, so it's a good day. My spirits are up. I'm feeling good.
Be honest. How many days a year does it actually rain in Seattle?
uh, Quite a bit. We've had this summer we probably had about a month and a half of good sun, and we enjoy every single day of it. I'll tell you, when there is sun, you really appreciate the sun. Everybody goes outside.
Right. I
Uh,
feel like
but
I feel like everyone I know from Seattle is very outdoorsy. So it's got
yeah,
to be frustrating that only half the days of the year are, outdoorsy kind of days.
yep. But I'll tell you this. As a startup, it's actually a really good place to be in because you can't really go outside, so there's no distractions. You're just heads down working on your startup. You know what I mean? So
True.
it's not a bad place to start a technology startup.
Right, like versus in San Diego, California, whereas 80% of the days of the year are sunshine and the beach is 5 minutes away. It's got to be hard to focus.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine.
So tell us before we jump in and start talking about your company, ShareGrid. Give us a little, bio or background on yourself personally.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of different careers. I've actually changed careers quite a bit, which I think is pretty typical nowadays in today's world. But basically, I started off as a filmmaker. I went to film school originally, worked for PBS as a video editor, was able to get an Emmy pretty early on. So that was a really big highlight early on in my career. And this was while I was still in college. Right after I graduated, moved out to New York City, worked for Samsung doing a lot of video animation, 3D animation type stuff. But I've always had a sort of an interest in starting my own company and starting my own tech startup. So I've done a few. This is my third one. So I've had two that didn't necessarily make it too far. But being a creative person, I've always been the designer in the companies, and I've had to sort of figure out lots of things on my own, self-taught on most programs. But right after Samsung, I decided to go out to Silicon Valley and kind of get a taste of the startup world. So I worked for Groupon, where I was the senior product mobile designer. So I designed the mobile apps for Groupon. So basically, the iPhone, iPad, Android apps. I was there for 2 years, pretty early on, and that company really blew up during that time. We went from
Right.
about 30 million users to about 100 million, and about 100 million downloads of the app within a few years. So that was a really good learning experience to me to understand the tech world, to understand building an app. And right after that, about 2 years in, I decided to leave and start ShareGrid with another designer from Groupon, my partner, Rush Shiva.
I feel like a lot of people that are probably listening to this podcast don't remember the early days of Groupon. I do. That's when I was just getting into the startup world, and it was like
Yeah.
everything was Groupon. Just like Uber today, all
Yeah.
these startups are trying to copy Uber into little different niches. Back
hmm
then, everybody was trying to copy Groupon into there was like 10 new daily deal sites popping up every day. It was crazy.
I mean, it was one of the fastest growing companies ever at that time. They went public in 2 years, I believe,
Yeah.
which was unheard of before. So it was, I mean, I can't even imagine what it would have been to actually run a company that's growing so fast. It's truly remarkable.
And I believe they turned down a multi-billion-dollar acquisition from Google, right?
Well, let me just paint the picture. When I started there, I believe it was February of 2013. A week that so I started on Monday. On Friday, the CEO was fired or let go. So that was a really scary start for me. There was a lot of change. There was a lot of debate within the company, and I was like, "Whoa! I just moved from New York all the way to the other side of the country. What am I getting myself into?" So it was. They definitely went through some turbulent times.
Yeah, that company's had a bumpy path. but it looks like they're starting to turn things around a little bit. So let's
They're
talk about shared.
Go ahead.
What? No, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, yeah, they've had a bumpy or history, but they have some good stuff there. They have some solid offerings. So
Yeah, they still have a huge audience. They still provide a lot of value for brands that want to get exposure. And then certainly they have a lot of people that, still buy those deals because there's huge discounts. So let's talk about ShareGrid. What is ShareGrid and why did you start the company?
yeah, definitely. So ShareGrid is a online marketplace for filmmakers and photographers. We help filmmakers and photographers rent out their equipment to other local filmmakers and photographers. So say you have a DSLR camera that's just kind of sitting around in your house and it's not necessarily making a lot of money for you. Maybe you haven't used it all as much as you wish you could use it. Well, you could rent it out to other photographers or other filmmakers within your city. The big thing that we do is we verify every single person and we insure every single rental. So we have an exclusive partnership with an insurance company, and every single rental is actually covered for 100% of its replacement value. So we make sure that it's a safe transaction, and we make sure it's as easy as possible for you to get out there and start making a return on the equipment that you've invested money in.
So what does a typical DS? I mean, I'm not from the video photography.
Yeah.
Is it DLS or DSR?
DSLR.
Okay.
So DSLRs are, pretty. It's a more professional, I guess, camera.
Right.
One of the most popular is like the Canon 5D. There's like point and shoots. We typically focus on higher end equipment. So DSLRs is probably our lower end equipment. And it's the reason I mention is because it's the most commonly known. But a lot of our equipment, a lot of our inventory, it's actually big budget film equipment, anything from Red cameras to Sony FS7s to drones to rigs to even big 2-ton trucks full of equipment, grip trucks. So we have a lot of equipment. We have over $150 million worth of inventory on our website, and that's just within 4 cities. So people on average upload about $40,000 worth of equipment per user. That's the average upload.
Wow.
So it's much more professional equipment.
Right. It's not like I'm going to go out and shoot a 30-second, YouTube video for my blog or something. I'm not going to be going to your website necessarily and renting something, an equipment package that costs tens of thousands of dollars. But who is the real customer in most cases?
Yeah, for sure. The real customer is definitely, on the lower end, it's the up and coming filmmakers, the up and coming film students that are looking to, really stand out among the crowd. They want to use the latest equipment. They want to use the cutting edge technology. But then we also have production companies. Typically, a small production companies, 5 to 6 people. They've bought a bunch of equipment because they want to have the equipment when they need it to shoot a commercial or to shoot a corporate video, but they don't typically use it every single day.
Right.
So we provide them a really easy way to actually make a little bit of extra money. They're a production company. They're focusing on their business, right? They don't have time to become a rental house. So we provide them the tools where they could actually rent out their equipment through our website, make a little bit of extra money while still focusing on their main core business, which is actually producing commercials, producing corporate videos, whatever it is. So I would say indie filmmakers and small production companies is our current audience. We are moving towards much more professional audiences, but there's still a few things we need to do before we could really move upstream there.
So how did you, so when this idea kind of popped in your head, when was that? When did it happen?
So it was probably about 2.5 years ago. So just to go back a little bit into the history of it, my co-founder and I, he's into photography. Like I mentioned, I went to film school. So we always had a passion for the industry, but we were pretty deep in Silicon Valley, all just thinking about tech. But we used to do daily walks, and our daily walks, we'd always like pass ideas around. And he was talking about how he's trying to sell some of his photography equipment because he has so much and new stuff is coming out, and it's really tough to keep up with the new technology that always comes up. So he sell it. He wished there was a way to actually make a little bit of extra money, and he didn't have to always sell it, because he did like it, but he kind of had to do that. And we thought, what if there was a website like Airbnb for the filmmakers and photographers? And we thought that was a great idea. But given we're in Silicon Valley, there's always this idea, you want to test your idea first before you kind of dive, waist deep into the idea. So what we did was we actually built a landing page, just the one simple landing page. And we promised people everything. We were like, you're going to be insured for millions of dollars. No worry. You're going to make thousands of dollars every single month. You're going to, all of these, we pretty much, whatever our dream was of what this product could be, we just laid it out on that page. And at the bottom, we put like a sign up now, give us your email. We'll let you know when it's ready. We did a little bit of Facebook advertising. And within 3 weeks, we had about 3,000 signups. So we're like, whoa,
wow,
like this is pretty good. Like people actually like it.
Now,
it wasn't.
Would you say that most people signing up were looking to rent out their equipment or to rent equipment?
So I think it's mostly they wanted to rent out their equipment.
Okay, looking to make money. Right.
We really we knew that the first step was that we needed to get inventory before we could market to the renters. So we really marketed to the potential of renting out your equipment, which was a fairly new idea back then. And we wanted to see if we could even get this equipment. So people signed up, but it wasn't the numbers that really impressed us. It was more the enthusiasm. People would email us, and these are people that we looked up to in the industry, would email us and be like, hey, when is this ready? And we're like, whoa, like people are really excited. And one other person emailed us actually, and is now our third co-founder, Brent Barbano. He's a cinematographer in Hollywood for about 10 years, really professional guy, has a lot of experience. And he was like, guys, I've been thinking about this exact idea, but it looks like you guys have made it so much further than I have. But he didn't know that we actually haven't built anything. It looked like we've built a lot of things. And we were like,
that's a good tech.
Sure.
Yeah, if you can trick everyone to thinking that you have like the whole back end built and it's really just a landing page, that's perfect.
Exactly. It gave us the confidence of like, wow, people really want to actually do this. And we found our third co-founder because we were like, yeah, come on, come on, we'll build it together. And he joined our team. So it goes to show that like, if you have an idea, if you have multiple ideas, what I always suggest people do is just build a landing page for each idea, run a little bit of Facebook advertising on it, and see which one you get more signups. Not only does it give you confidence, but you could potentially attract a CTO. You could potentially attract an advisor, right? Because that proves it's not you saying like, oh, this idea is great. It's multiple, hundreds of people that are also signing up for this potential idea. So I think there's nothing wrong with building a little landing page of validating your idea in a really easy way. And there's so many services out there where you could, in an afternoon, really build your landing page. Yeah, so that's kind of how the idea got started.
Who did you guys use for the landing page? Unbounce or someone else?
We actually used Webflow, which is my preferred website builder, just because it gives you complete control. I'm a designer, so I love to pixel push every single pixel. And Webflow gives you that ultimate control. It's a little bit steeper learning curve, but they have an amazing amount of tutorials, which really help you in learning the program. But it's really, really great.
Do they give you a lot of analytics so you know where the traffic's coming from?
They don't have a lot of analytics, to tell you the truth. We typically use like Google Analytics. You could hook that up, but they don't have a lot of analytics built in. Okay. But they have forms and data collection and stuff like that.
Well, my house phone's ringing. Hold on. Hate that stupid phone. Okay, so you guys had a landing page. You basically had 3,000 passionate community members before you even had a company.
Yep.
So I think that was kind of the proof in the pudding that this idea had some legs to it.
Yep.
What did you guys do next? In terms of building out the website or the putting together a marketing strategy.
So we actually went downhill after that pretty fast. And the reason why was people were really excited and they were getting really restless. They were like, hey, when's this going to be up? And
Yeah.
we started immediately on building the marketplace. And we're like, it's going to be up really, really soon. And we were actually making really good progress on the website. But one thing people kept asking was like, hey, that's amazing. I can't believe you have the insurance companies on your side. You're going to insure everything?
Right.
We're like, oh, yeah.
Whoops.
We actually said that we're going to insure everything. And we kept delaying it because we didn't know much about the insurance industry. We're like, I'm sure we'll just call a few insurance companies and get them to partner with us and everything will be fine. We were almost done with the website. And that's what we're like, okay, let's do this insurance piece. We called up, oh my God, it must have been like at least 30 insurance companies. And all of them thought we were insane. They were like, what? I have no idea what you're talking about. First off, we don't deal with any websites like that. And to give you some context of why they thought we were crazy, in the production world, let's say you want to rent a $10,000 camera. What you have to do is go to an insurance broker. That insurance broker will then shop around and say, hey, Marius needs an insurance policy to cover $10,000 worth of equipment for these dates. They will shop it around to multiple carriers, get you a bunch of quotes, then you have to go through the paperwork. This process typically takes 5 to 7 days. So now imagine we're trying to build an instant Uber-like website, now only to hear that, oh yeah, we could work with you, but they have to call us via phone, and it's going to take 5 to 7 days for someone to check out on your website.
Right.
We're like, what? No, that can't work. So we were literally about to just give up on the idea. There was just not much we could do. Nobody wanted to use the website unless we had the insurance.
Of course.
We finally convinced one insurance company that they were intrigued with the idea, but they said, we don't necessarily have what you're asking us for, but if you want to build it, we'll partner with you. We'll give you an exclusive partnership. So we literally spent about 6 months building an insurance product. We had to go through every single case. Are you taking the camera near water? Are you traveling with the camera? Have you had any claims before? We had to build pretty much an insurance product before we could actually launch our company. We didn't know anything about insurance. And for that, today I know more about insurance than I ever wanted to know. But, we had to build this in order to make this happen. But it turns out that was the key ingredient in our company getting traction, because once we did build that insurance company, we became the first ever peer-to-peer online website to have instant insurance where you could insure up to $750,000 worth of equipment within just a few minutes, which has never been done before. And we still do have an exclusive partnership with an insurance company to provide that. So that was what made the customers feel really confident about putting up $40,000 worth of equipment, knowing that there's this, every rental is going to require insurance and the renter is going to purchase this insurance instantly through our website. So that was kind of the big hurdle we had to overcome.
That was my next question. So who pays for the insurance? You said it's the renter?
Yeah. So typically that's the process in this industry. When somebody's renting from a rental house, like a traditional brick and mortar rental house, you have to come with an insurance policy. The rental house doesn't have insurance. They don't sell insurance. You kind of have to figure it out on your own. And then you have to provide the insurance company a certificate of insurance. But again, that could take a really long time. We do it. It's all instant. It's all automatic. The owner gets a certificate of insurance within a few minutes via email. So that was our challenge.
How much does the insurance typically cost as a percentage of the the overall rental? If someone's paying $1,000 to rent a camera for a week, what would they normally pay for insurance?
Yeah, so it's actually not necessarily dependent on the price of the rental. It's depending on the replacement value of the equipment. So for anything, $25,000, it starts at $200 a policy. So for about $25,000, $30,000 worth of replacement value, you have to pay about $200, which is to us from the consumer market, that's expensive, but it's typically actually a really good rate in this industry. Insurance is just really really expensive. However, we do have our damage waiver policy, which is actually much less expensive. We've created our own policy, which typically starts at like $15 and it goes up to about $40, $50, and that covers any equipment less than $20,000 in value. So we've tried to make it really affordable for younger, maybe people that are just getting into it.
Have you guys had any claims yet?
Yes, we have. But that was so going into this, obviously, all you could think about is like, hey, it's only going to take a few claims and we're going to be out of business.
Yeah.
So that was my biggest fear. That's what kept me up at night. And what we've done is taken a different sort of route to look at it. We invested really heavily in security measures. So we do bank level like background checks where we ask you all of these questions to verify your identity. We ask for your state ID. So we really go thorough in verifying everybody. And with that said, this is the lowest number, but I'm also the most proud of this number. We've had 0.2% claim rate in like tens of thousands of rentals. So that's what makes me really excited, is that we've actually had a really low number. And I attribute that to the verification that we do, but also you have to meet person to person to exchange this equipment. And when you're meeting someone face to face and you're saying, hey, I'm going to bring back your lens in good shape, and your entire sort of, this is a niche industry, right? It's everybody knows each other, or you're at least like 2 or 3 degrees separated, and you're kind of on the line. Your personal brand is on the line. If you mess up that lens, that person might tell somebody else. And, obviously we have a review system. So I think it's that, meeting the person face to face, you feel more accountable when you actually have to return that gear. And I feel like people take a lot better care of the equipment because of that connection they have when they meet up.
Right. And they certainly don't want to get, burn any bridges or get kicked out of this community and not be able to rent equipment in the future, which could really pose a threat to their business.
Exactly. So people take their reviews very, very seriously. And I don't know the exact number, but I know it's in the high 90% range, where it's 100% positive reviews. About 90-something% of our users have positive reviews. So people really, really care because they know it's a community. The film and creative community is really built on relationships. So I think people understand that, and they take really good care of their equipment.
So how is ShareGrid funded?
Yeah, so funding was something that we just recently received. We received $1 million in seed funding in July. But before that, we were actually bootstrapping. Arash and I put in our own money, and we got to the point where we were ramen noodle profitable. And that's what
how much did you guys put in altogether? Are you comfortable sharing the number?
Probably around the $20,000 range,
okay,
maybe a little more. But yeah, it took a little bit of our own money to kick it off. But that's the nice thing about building a marketplace, is that you're seeing it's a real business. We charge a fee on every single rental, so we're seeing a return right away.
Right. So you essentially make money on every transaction, right?
Exactly. That's been our goal, and we didn't necessarily want to build something where, hey, if we build the audience, money will come later. I know sometimes that works for a lot of businesses, but we like being in the marketplace business because of that reason. But there's also downsides to the marketplace business. There's a lot of work that goes in.
A ton of work, right? And a lot of it's marketing. I mean, you have to find both sides. The chicken and the egg.
Exactly.
But you guys don't hold any inventory, do you?
No. So that's the beauty of it. We have 150 million plus of inventory, but we don't own one piece of gear. We actually do own some gear that we've bought for the company. We actually put it on the website, and it's made quite a bit of money.
I mean, what kinds of feedback have you gotten from some of your sellers that have sent you saying, "Oh my God, thank you, man! I paid $5,000 for this, and I've already made 3 times that."
Yeah. That's what I mean. That's the kind of feedback I live for. Um, we've, on average, some of our top users are making about $1,000 a month, which,
Wow.
in some states, I mean, that could be your rent.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that's
but
like
we have
Airbnb. Yeah, totally.
exactly. And but we have some users, some of our early users that are making. I know one guy is going to make over $120,000 this year, renting out his equipment
How much
on
equipment
ShareGrid.
does he have? What's the
Uh,
value? What's the value of all of his equipment? You think?
it's well over 100,000,
Okay.
so he'll break even. But to invest $100,000 and make that back on your first year, that's pretty impressive because that gear will retain its value for at least 2 to 3 years. So he'll end up definitely getting a big return on his equipment. We've had a few owners, equipment owners, that have sold their boutique rental houses where they had a legitimate warehouse and they've sold it and they just put everything in their garage and are now just renting from their garage
That's
because they
all.
said, what's the point of like having employees, and having a warehouse that I have to pay bills at where I could just do this online and save a lot of money. You guys are doing the payments, you guys are doing the verifications, you guys are handling the insurance, and you take a small fee, but that's nothing compared to all the bills I had to run a
Right.
brick and mortar place.
It's like as soon as eBay started scaling, you started seeing a lot of the antique shops close up and do the same thing. They just, instead of selling it out of a retail store with all the overhead, they just keep all the stuff in their garage. And I've actually seen a few friends do this, or it's all over their living room, and they just sell on eBay and ship right from their house.
Exactly. I mean, that's our goal, is to empower those power users. I read somewhere that Airbnb, most of their revenue actually comes from a small percentage of their user base, which is actually the people that invest in property and use it as Airbnb, only use it for Airbnb purposes.
Wow.
And that's where a majority of their revenue actually comes, is from those power users. So we have a few of those, and we're actually planning on empowering those people, helping them lease more equipment, because now they could actually see an actual return on their investment, where before it wasn't very clear if they were going to make a return on this equipment. So we want to help them, increase their business.
That's awesome. Okay, so you guys back in July raised $1 million. Who were the investors, and how did you guys find them?
Yeah. So we have two investors. So I'll go back a little bit. I'll step back and tell you a little bit about the investing story. And that was quite, it was a dilemma on both sides, really. Us internally trying to make a decision: should we raise money or should we not? Because we were ramen noodle profitable, meaning like we could eat ramen and just kind of survive. But it was our business. We owned the entire 100% of it. So we felt really proud that we made something that was putting a little bit of food on the table, and we said we could continue to grow this. It could be a really good small business. Should we raise money? Should we not? So we had a lot of internal debate if we should do that. We came to the conclusion that we felt the creative film and photography industry, there's a lot of need there. It's kind of outdated, and then we think we could do a lot. There's a lot of plans for expansion within that industry, so we decided to go for it and raise money. But it took some convincing for us internally. It took a lot more convincing externally to
Yeah,
investors
right,
to
right.
also get them to see the picture we were kind of dreaming up. So we, it took us at least, I would say, 3 months, and a lot of meetings. I mean, I would say we had a spreadsheet of upwards of probably 50, 60 investors on there. I would say we've done at least 100 pitches. And in the end, we did come up with about 12 investors that were interested in investing in us. That's a mixture of angel investors and also venture capitalists. And being in that position, once you get a little bit of traction, you get a few bites, it actually starts to speed up. It's all about getting a few people interested, and then it really starts to speed up. So once we got a few people, 12 people to sort of bite on it, we decided to be very careful who we let in. because that was our thing. We know we'll probably never be a unicorn company, and we're self-aware enough to understand that, and we wanted an investor that was also self-aware that, hey, we could potentially be a really, really big, but probably never in like $10 billion crazy
Right.
billions of dollars
Just because
company, and that's okay.
just because it's not a potential IPO company doesn't mean you can't build a very successful, very profitable business.
Exactly, and we found investors that were okay with that, I believe, and that were really, they put a lot more. I think they looked at the founders more than they looked at the current sort of market and the current idea, and really invested in that. And the two investors that we got is MHS Capital. MHS Capital is a venture capitalist in Silicon Valley in San Francisco. They've invested in Indiegogo. They've invested in Udemy, Thumbtack, which have all been really great marketplaces with really great success. So we thought that's a great amount of experience
Right.
that they bring to the table, more than just the money, but the actual experience, the connections that they have building marketplaces. And we also just like the people, the actual investors behind MHS Capital. They're really humble. They're really scrappy. They were the first ones to actually do about a month of due diligence on us and really learn the market. A lot of the issues we ran into when trying to get investors was that people were just not familiar with our sector, with our industry. So they would just write us off as, oh, that's niche. It's never going to go anywhere. And a lot of investors say, oh, we invest in people first, but they never really take the time to get to know the founders. Really. So you have to be careful if you're out raising money, like try to find people either in your industry or find people that are willing to listen and willing to learn, because it's really hard to learn an industry in a elevator pitch. Like you're never gonna really get that. So MHS Capital really did the due diligence. And the second investor that we decided to partner with was Archer Gray, which they're based in New York City. They typically invest in movies, so they're a film investor, but they also invest in technology startups. And we thought that's a great balance of somebody that MHS Capital who invested in marketplaces, and then somebody that has a lot of experience in the filmmaking industry. And we were so happy. We felt like we hit the lotto and we had an MVP team. So that's who we decided to move forward with.
Now, was it a straight equity deal or convertible?
Straight equity deal. Yeah.
Okay. So you have these two companies on board, and certainly, for anyone that's, had that conversation with themselves and their team, do we keep bootstrapping or do we raise money? What were the three reasons or the three main reasons that you guys decided to raise money instead of continue to bootstrap?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's some logistical reasons. We have a big appetite. We want to build every single day. Our company was growing while we were like trying to raise money. We were actually not as focused on the marketplace because raising money really is a full-time job. And I think a lot of people have heard this, but I'll say it again. It's a lot of work, and it really takes a toll on you. So our community really took a back seat, but it was still growing. Therefore, like resources weren't being thrown at the community, but it was still growing. And we needed more people to help sustain the growth. And we needed more developers. We needed more, just everything. And we didn't necessarily have the money to throw that way. And we just needed the money. So I think that's obviously one reason to raise money, because it takes off some of that pressure when you're going through those growing pains. The second reason was we have some big dreams, and we feel like with the help of not just the money and the resources, but also the guidance of somebody that has gone there, has done it, I really think we could get to where we plan to get. And I think it's also the perfect timing, just because this industry still hasn't caught up with a lot of the technology that's out there and a lot of what is out there to offer. So I think we can bring it up to speed in a lot of ways. So it's a mixture of opportunity, need, and just a willing to dream big and kind of go after it. But at the same time, we wanted to make sure we had the right partners, so we chose carefully if we were going to go down this route. So we're happy with our decision.
Yeah, no, I think the two investors you have make total sense. I can see where they both bring a different perspective, and they'll add a ton of value over time. What kind of a fee does ShareGrid take from each transaction?
That's a good question. Yeah, we take a 15% fee from the owner, so the person that owns the equipment, and then from the renter, we take a 5% fee.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
so 20 total. I mean, have you guys gotten any feedback is whether that number might be too high, too low, or just right?
No, we've gotten feedback that that's the right number. We initially started higher, and then we lowered it. I wanted to start at 30%, the Apple model, but we we quickly found out our user base was not taking it. But actually, I will say that it's always good to start off higher because it's a much better it's much easier to go down
Yeah.
rather than to go up. If I were to increase our take right now, we would have to back that up with a lot of new value that we bring to the table. So yeah, I would be careful. The advice would be start up high. You can always go down. That's the easy part. Going up is much harder.
So the traditional marketplace um, difficulties, classic chicken and egg. You have the sellers and the renters in this case. So you have to try to acquire both sides of it. So what's been your customer acquisition strategy for getting both sides to come together?
Yeah, our customer, we call it like a playbook. We have a playbook that we launch city by city. So our strategy was, some of our competitors decided to go sort of wide and open up in every city. We didn't necessarily think that was the best decision, at least for our audience, was because we wanted to provide the best experience in that city that we were in. So we wanted to focus on one city at a time. Because of that reason, if you don't have inventory, your renters won't stick around. If you don't have renters, your inventory owners won't stick around. So what we did initially was we started just in Los Angeles because that was kind of our hometown. One of our co-founders was based there. And again, we used urgency, and we used kind of this, urgency, and also just what's the word I'm looking for? Like where it's blocked off, it's very private, right? So a lot of people wanted to be part of ShareGrid, but we purposely stopped people from getting in, which actually only increased their want to be in the marketplace. So we put a blocker and said, okay, we're only taking 100 people. And once those 100 people came in, we made them feel really special. We said, hey, you guys are the community founders. You guys are the founding members of ShareGrid Los Angeles. And here's a badge, and you're going to wear that proud. And everybody was really excited. They were really happy to be part of this community. And we only focused on owners first because we knew owners, they have nothing to lose. They can list their equipment, even if they don't necessarily get a lot of rentals early on. Their equipment's sitting at home anyways. Now it's just sitting in a marketplace somewhere digitally. And early on, we even listed the equipment for them. So we did the hard work of we said, just email us your list. Doesn't have to be formatted or anything, and we'll put it up for you. And what we did is we tried to make those 100 profiles the best looking profiles we could possibly make. And we did all the hard manual work. So those founding members then started inviting other people because those founding members have special privileges where they could actually invite other members. So they felt like, wow, I have special power. You want to invite? I'll give it to you. And then when those
They were inviting other sellers to the community?
Yes, exactly. New inventory owners. They were inviting their friends. And when their friends came to the community, they saw those beautifully crafted listings, and they're like, wow, okay, that's how I'm supposed to put my equipment on. So those initial 100 people served as an example to other new users of how you should be taking photos, of how you should be writing your descriptions, of how you should be pricing your equipment. That was one thing early on, is we wanted people to price their equipment a little bit lower than anybody else because we knew that was a major factor in a renter's decision if they should rent, if they should try out the service, was the price point. So we did a few tricks to try to get the price lower in the beginning, and then slowly increased it after that.
Awesome. So how did you guys determine where? I mean, obviously Los Angeles does make the most sense. I mean, it's kind of,
Yeah,
Hollywood and
yeah.
the whole, largest film community in the country, I'm sure. But then where did you guys decide to go after Los Angeles, and what was part of that decision-making process?
Yeah. So after that, it was Los Angeles for almost. We focused on LA for quite a bit. It was probably 10 months before we launched any other city, because again, we didn't have the resources. We really wanted to take our time to build a quality community that was a lot more important to us than expanding cross country really fast. And the next city was, again, it was kind of a no. There was not much to think about. It was New York City.
Right.
New York City is known for their indie filmmakers and creative photographers, fashion photographers. So we knew New York City would be
Yeah,
the
I was
next
thinking
city.
a lot of media, a lot of fashion.
Exactly.
They're constantly shooting commercials and fashion shoots and
Yep.
events, and all that stuff. So yeah, that
Yep.
makes a lot of sense.
So New York City was next, and after that, right after we launched, right after we raised money, we actually went to Atlanta, and that's really Atlanta, Georgia. Is a lot of people don't know this, but it's probably the second Hollywood. It's
Wow.
really all the Marvel movies are being shot there. A
Really?
lot of TV shows are being shot there. So, and it's mostly due to their really, really good tax
Yeah,
incentives,
yeah.
which has driven a lot of production out there.
Yeah, because Massachusetts tried doing that, 10 years ago. Plymouth Rock, they started doing movie credits. And then I spent the last couple of years in Wilmington, North Carolina, and that's become kind of a big film area with a lot of TV shows like Under the Dome and One Tree Hill, and a bunch of others have all been filmed
Yep.
in
Yep.
Wilmington. So yeah, some states recognize that. And it's funny. I mean, I totally get what you guys are doing now. I mean, all those studios are, they may not want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on equipment, especially if they're going to a new state to shoot on location somewhere for a week or two. They don't have to ship all their equipment. They don't have to buy new equipment. So the idea of renting it from someone just makes total sense.
Exactly, and we're not necessarily serving those huge shows yet, because one of those things is they value convenience a lot, right? So some of the they love to go to a brick and mortar warehouse where they could just pick things off the shelf really easily and be like, I want that, that, and that, and they don't want to necessarily go around meeting 5, 10 people to get pieces
Right,
of a
right,
package, right?
right.
And we are building towards that audience. We have in New York and Los Angeles, we have courier service. So if you're willing to spend a little more money and you like convenience more than price, great. We have a courier service. Everything will show up wherever you want it to show up. We're also building location hubs. So in New York City and Los Angeles, we have location hubs. And these are pretty much like Amazon lockers, where let's say an owner is busy and the renter is busy, and it's really hard for them to like sync schedules to meet up and exchange their equipment. Well, they don't have to do that anymore. The owner could drop off the equipment at a location hub days ahead or whenever they have time on their own schedule. And the renter could also just pick it up whenever they want. And guess what? You could do that with multiple owners. You could have multiple owners drop off their equipment at that location hub, and the renter would just go and pick up everything at once. They could test it. They have a floor prep, meaning like a table where they could lay out all the equipment. They could test out their equipment. And those spaces are actually insured by ShareGrid. So if anything happens, there's somebody there, they help out, it's insured, so you're all covered. So we're going to be building a lot more of these location hubs, these central hubs where owners and renters could meet or could just drop off equipment for easier sort of convenience. So that type of convenience will be attractive to the bigger productions, the people that are willing to spend a little more money but get that convenience, because time is worth to them a lot more than saving a couple bucks.
So what is the single best piece of advice you've gotten from one of your investors or board members?
Oh man, that's That's a good that's a good question. And actually, not too long ago, we were kind of having one of these existential sort of debates of like, what should we be doing next? What should we be focusing on? And it's really focus. So when you're a startup, you get really excited, especially when you're a startup that has received funding. You're like, oh my God, I could do anything now. Like I have resources. I could focus on anything. Let's try to do this. Let's try to build this new feature. Let's try to build this new service, right? Like we could do it all. And like you get requests from everybody. You get requests from some of your investors, your advisors, your users. They're like, hey, have you thought about building this? Have you thought about building that? And it goes back to focusing on what works, right? Focusing on what works now. And as creatives, we get really excited about the shiny thing that's new. And one of our investors was like, look, what's worked so far is getting inventory and building a really good community, a really quality community in every city. And that's what's worked. And we're only in 4 cities. Why are you even thinking about any other service other than launching in 10 more cities and building the inventory and making those communities the greatest communities they could possibly be? Everything else will fall into place. Everything else, all those features will still be there, 2 years from now or whatever it is. But just focus on the core. If you have a strong core, it's going to be really hard for anyone to beat you or to compete with you. Or really, that's what's going to provide. If you have a strong foundation, that's going to be the biggest win you could do. So that's if I could go back, that was probably one of the best advice, and it really refocused us. It's just to focus on the core and focus on the foundation, focus on what works.
Yeah, I think the best entrepreneurs, that is the one thing that they would probably attribute most of their success to, was their ability to really focus and not get distracted and learn how to say no to certain things, and just stay on task with what what their core competency is. So that's great advice. If you could be mentored by any entrepreneur in the country, who would it be?
Whew, that's a tough one. Obviously, there's like the really famous one, like Elon
Yeah.
Musk. I
Right.
have no idea how that guy. I I have no idea what he does to like be so good. He's running 2 hugely successful companies and has time to like think up of new ideas and somehow still sleep.
I think for him, it's more about the team. Like, I wonder how involved he is with the actual day-to-day operations and strategy and everything else. I mean, right, because it's SpaceX, Solar City, Tesla, the Hyperloop, although I don't think he's really involved with that. But I just wonder, or is he just the best person, the best entrepreneur at building teams?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's hard to know, but right, I would love to follow that guy around for a week and just see what he does.
Yeah, yeah, I would love to just kind of, yeah, exactly, just follow him and see what he's up to. But there is, other like not as known entrepreneurs that I really look up to. One of the great, at ShareGrid, we use a lot of different services. One of my favorites would probably have to be Intercom, which is like a chatting customer management system. And I mean, I have no idea where we'd be without Intercom. It just makes our life so much easier. And their co-founder and chief like strategy officer, Des Trainer, he's actually he has a really good talk on saying no and focusing. And I mean, they've built a really good product, and there's a lot of competitors out there in the chatting space
I
and
was
the
just going to
customer.
say, there's so many of them. How did you guys decide on Intercom?
Yeah, I mean, I think like they tend to focus on the things that are really important, and we've tried other ones, but this one kind of hits it on all levels. Like they have really great design, they have really good customer behavioral tracking, so you can actually track what your customers are doing on your website. They have really good sort of you could send out emails to people, automated messaging. So if somebody does something, it automatically pops up a little message in the bottom right corner saying, "Hey, it looks like you're having trouble with your payment. Do you need help?" So it's just the product overall it seems like it's not overly inflated with features, but it seems to like have just really good, solid products. So I definitely look up to him, and they also have a really good blog that I read pretty often. So
Who do you guys use for customer support? Do you use someone like Zendesk, or do you guys just do it all yourself?
it's all intercom. So
Oh,
customer
interesting.
support
Okay.
goes through intercom. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a really, you guys should look it up. It's a good product.
Yeah, I'm actually like literally the last week and a half I've been looking at five or six of them, trying to compare them. Same with CRMs. There's so many companies doing CRM and marketing automation. It's sometimes hard to pick one.
Yeah. So it's there's so many options out there. It really, you sometimes you just have to get into it and just do it, because not there's not one product that's just perfect. Every product has its downfalls. I think you could do yourself a disservice if you like try to find you're always in search for the perfect product, and you could just end up like in an endless search because there's so many options out there.
So I want to try to wrap it up here because I know you're busy. You're building a multi-million-dollar company here, and have you thought about how big this company could be someday?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's something that we, especially while we're raising money, we've thought about a lot, the potential of it. The answer right now is I don't know, and I try not to think about it too much because we're trying to focus and we're trying to build the best possible company we can for our current customer base. And if
And
we could do that, we feel very confident that everything will fall into place and those new opportunities will arise and kind of be discovered on their own. So we try not to spend too much time sort of trying to analyze the future, because we've learned that ever since day one, you put a landing page out and then you figure out what your next problem is, which in our case was insurance, and we tackled that problem when we had to. But if we try to think about all the issues and all the opportunities from before we built that landing page, we would have probably got really scared off and never built it. But we try to just focus on the next step ahead. But we definitely have a lot of ideas, big ideas, and we have a big document where we put all of our big ideas. But we try not to think about it and put too much energy towards them, because yeah, I think it tends to be a distraction sometimes.
And then, kind of last question or last topic before we wrap up is about hiring. So most companies are only as good as their people. Um, how many people are you right now? How big is the team?
Yeah, I mean, we have a mixture of contractors and also full time people. We have about seven full time people, and the total team size is about 11.
Okay.
But I mean, hiring has been tough, and we've been incredibly lucky. And I wish there was like, oh, this is exactly what we did to get these people, but it's been actually just it just kind of happened. The last two hires we're really happy about. James Kiblos, which is our director of growth. He used to be the film and music commissioner of Seattle, and somehow we've recruited him to now. He for 10 years he built an amazing film and music community within Seattle, and now he's going to help us build those type of communities across the U.S. for ShareGrid. So we're incredibly excited about that. And a funny thing, the way I met him was I I rented his boat on another peer-to-peer place called Boatbound,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
that's
Heard of
exactly,
it.
yeah. And we just met through another peer-to-peer website, which
Oh,
was
that's
just
awesome.
completely random.
Is that
And then our director of engineering just came from Instacart, which he was a lead developer on Instacart, which has been another great marketplace with a lot of great background story there. But he just joined our team, moved from San Francisco to Seattle, and I have no idea why he did, but he's really excited. So we're really happy to have him. So when it comes to hiring, one thing I look into, one attribute I look for is self-driven, self-motivated. I really feel like you don't necessarily need to have all the skills when we hire you, but you need to be self-motivated and self-driven. That you're willing to go out and actually do the research and learn what you need to learn. Because when we got into this business, we didn't know any of it. But given our nature to like go out and learn by ourselves, I think that's what makes a great entrepreneur. That's what makes a great employee. If you're self-driven, especially on a small scale where you don't necessarily have a bunch of managers to lay out exactly what you should be doing, you need to have people that are willing to do it themselves and willing to figure out the problem and solve it. Doesn't have to be always like the right way of doing it, but they're willing to try and willing to figure it out on their own. One book I read, I forgot the name of it, but they said the worst thing you could do is bad hires could potentially just kill your entire company. This one founder, they made a few bad hires, and he ended up working weekends and a lot more because he was always afraid and he had to micromanage his employees. And that's the worst thing you could do when you have to start micromanaging and being on top of your employees. You don't trust them to do things on their own. When you're a startup, that could really cripple you. So I would say, the most important thing you should look in is self-driven, self-motivated people that are willing to go out there and learn on their own. I think that'd be great.
Right, because if you're trying to build an A team and you start to hire B players, it just doesn't work. The A team doesn't want to work with B players. They want to work with other rock stars. So, final question: what's your favorite TV show?
Oh man, there's a few. So I really like *Halt and Catch Fire*, which the way I would describe it is it's Mad Men meets like Silicon Valley, the new TV show. It's basically about these people building a computer company in like the 1970s. It's a really good TV show. Mr. Robot's another favorite one, but *Halt and Catch Fire*, I would definitely recommend everyone watch that. It's a really good TV show.
Awesome. Sweet. I'll have to check them out. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your time today. I think you guys are really doing some cool, exciting stuff at ShareGrid. Glad you came on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really, I hope people get some advice from this or it helps them in any way. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out. My email is marius@sharegrid.com. So if you have any questions, you need any advice, definitely reach out to me. That's one thing, if you don't mind, I was meaning to give some advice to people that I found it's a simple hack that I found really useful. If you're looking to actually raise money, a lot of the times investors won't take your call unless you're actually introduced by somebody.
Right.
And if you're a young entrepreneur, you might not have the network that you need to get all of these introductions. So one thing that I found really useful is actually finding founders, company founders online and emailing them directly, people that have raised money before. So typically investors, if you cold email them, they're not going to answer. They get that all the time. But company founders, they don't get as many emails from people just cold emailing them, right? So they're more likely to actually answer you, especially if you have an interesting story, especially if you're in the same business or the same category. And once you get on the phone call, just say, hey, I'm also doing a marketplace. I would love to pick your brain just for 30 minutes. I need some advice. And a lot of the times they'll give you really great advice. And if they really like your company, they'll actually introduce you to their investors.
Right. Or they might even invest themselves. But I think you're right. I think founders have that pay it forward mentality more so than investors do.
Exactly. So yeah, again, if you guys have any questions, definitely feel free to shoot me an email. I'm always looking forward to help others because I know a lot of people have helped me, and it's a lonely, hard road when you're doing entrepreneurship. So I'm always looking forward to helping others.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing all the advice. I'll make sure I put all your contact information up in the, on the website when I post this in a few days or next week. So until then, man, welcome back anytime on the show. Thank you so much. Oh, there's my phone again. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Marius. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.